here with Marjan from Ripple. And I guess just not wasting any time, do you want to quickly go over your own introduction to the space and what you've been doing over the last couple of years?
Well, I think the introduction is simple. So I joined Ripple in mid-2017, so it's almost 2 years. I'm coming from the old market infrastructure world from Swift. So this has been a big jump, I should say. But mainly this was made by the fact that I was very much impressed by the blockchain world and how the companies like Ripple are navigating this change. Now coming back to what we are doing, really, from business perspective. So I think Ripple, just to make it very simple, we do have, of course, I'm sure you know about the crypto assets, XRP, but my job more specifically is around helping the banking industry or the financial industry, engaging with the financial industry and helping them to understand how the blockchain can resolve some of the issues that they face today with the international and cross-border money transfer. So we do have a subset of the software, enterprise software, that we commercialize to financial institutions. This is really using blockchain and distributed ledger technology. And we do have 3 product sets that are running in the same platform, and they are addressing different issues with the cross-border payments. I don't know how far you're familiar with the cross-border payments, but there are many inefficiencies today. If you want to send money actually as an individual or even as a financial institution, a normal transfer takes 3 to 5 days, and it's very costly. And if you are a remitter, I can tell you if you're a worker and you want to send money home to your family, this is even worse, because the percentage of the money that it is going to the multiple intermediaries involved in the cross-border payment. So I think what we are trying to address is to democratizing that, make that more efficient, and removing all the friction that today exists with the cross-border payments. In other words, it's business as usual for the banks, so it's not necessarily using crypto assets, it's fiat currency. So sending, for instance, USD to Mexico, Euro to Philippines, but really taking this new technology progressively into the world that the financial institution can make the change without being terrified. So in a nutshell, I hope it explains what we are doing.
All right, so let's start broad. In terms of real-life use cases, practical use cases, what's happening in this space right now?
In general, you mean, or
in general?
In general. So I think if you look at, I'm not a technology person, so I'm just looking really from far away and more theoretical side. I think if you look 5 years back, this area was looking like a Silk Road. So you were having multiple opportunities or different use cases that you had when the internet starts. 2 years after that, it was around speculation. And we saw actually many companies or many new organizations that couldn't really fit with what was the requirement. They couldn't really survive. Or they didn't have, let's say, a legitimate use case. 2017 for me, or 18, I should say, was the correction. So I think the teams went back to where it should be, honestly, probably in certain cases, so that the real use cases could survive. And 2019, I think this is really where the maturity and I think growth will be more visible, because those that are coming now into this space needs to have clarity about what they want to really achieve and what is the problem that they want to resolve. It's very interesting to see names such as JP Morgan or Facebook or others coming to this space, because I think this is validating some of the hypotheses that there are a series of frictions that need to be addressed. So I think this technology, the way that we need to tackle that, is not looking at technology and finding the problems, it's the other way around. But I think that sometimes the risk with these new names is that, are they going to really be decentralized, or are they going to replicate a centralized world that we are today living? So that's actually future will show us.
Right. So tell me about Ripple specifically. I know you've been doing a lot of work both on products and network side. Let's start with products. What's Ripple working on right now, and what specific sectors of the banking industry are targeting?
Well, I think what we started actually, the network is live, so I think that's very important since 2017. And when I'm talking about the banks, we are not talking about experimentation or proof of concept or pilots. It's really banks or payment service providers that are new actors in this space. Some of them, there are some existing of course, they sign production contracts. So that means that they invest money to integrate these softwares into the production environment. So that means, for this technology, that means a lot because you are facing an existing legacy systems, you are facing some IT people that they don't want to change anything and then you have to fight with them. So I think that's a big step. But what we are doing actually, we ended up last year with more than 200 financial institutions. Among them, there are some large banks, if I can mention the name, some of the big names, especially in the US context, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and you have Santander, you have some global banks, but you have as well many tier 2, tier 3 banks that are somehow facing most of the challenges that today exist in the financial industry. Last year, actually, we signed up many payment service providers. As a payment service provider, you have different actually challenges. You have challenges that are linked to the liquidity management because obviously you have to go to the larger banks and global banks and you have to pay for this liquidity. And this is actually somehow paving the way that our products are used. Typically what we see is probably large global banks are very well served with the existing infrastructure. But when you get to the tier 2, tier 3, and especially in certain markets like remittances or e-commerce, because e-commerce is, a few years ago was not that big, but today is representing 20% of the global payments. And the experience that you are bringing is very important because everything needs to be instant and real time. When you look at how Amazon is delivering goods, the money behind that doesn't follow actually the same pattern. So I think where the existing market infrastructure are not able to cope with these changes and these requirements, the solution like Ripple or like Ripple are very much relevant. And that's where we see the traction. For instance, we see a big traction between Middle East and India because obviously there are the corridors that are very much related to the remittances. We see that in the Southeast and East Asia, where you have a community of the workers that need to send money. But we see that as well in Europe, for payment service providers that they want to send money to Mexico, to all markets that today dormant liquidity is very costly and financial institutions are less and less keen to keep liquidity. So there you see the traction coming.
Right, so let's talk a little bit more about the lower liquidity payment corridors. So I know you've been doing a lot of work with Southeast Asia, the Philippines, for example, a lot of work with Mexico. Can you speak a little bit to maybe what the divide is exactly? What does Ripple provide them that the traditional banking infrastructure either does not or cannot?
Exactly. So I think coming back just to give you a very simple example of how it works. So today when you send, for instance, from Euro to Philippines, you have to go through USD. Sometimes you have to go through triple or fourth intermediaries in order to get to the local market. And each time there are additional fees that it is coming on the top. And fees are not only related to the transaction fees, but it's the liquidity. And we know that this trapped liquidity represents trillions of dollars on a yearly basis. So this use case and the product that we are talking about is using XRP in this case as a bridge currency. So that means that you are a user of for instance, in this case, a payment service providers, you go to the crypto exchange, digital asset, because it's really addressing a problem that has a very high cost for organizations that they don't have necessarily the capital adequacy or the necessary capital like large global banks.
Okay, gotcha. So let's switch tack a little bit. Let's talk about the network. XRP is on its own ledger. Can you talk a little bit about what the development of that might look like going forward?
Well, XRP is becoming more and more decentralized. I think if you look back a few years ago now, there are 150 validators, and Ripple is only controlling 4% of that. So that's very important for us. We want to ensure that it is fully decentralized. And we're working a lot as well around the creation of the healthy ecosystem around XRP. So our activity is not only limited to the software sales or enterprise software sales. We are also using different initiatives such as Spring. We are actually investing or somehow working closely with different entrepreneurs, different companies that want to create products or use cases around the usage of the XRP. In addition as well, the other initiatives that we are doing is we have committed $50 million to the universities, to different universities. In total, there are 29 universities, including Penn University, that we want to use these funds in order to accelerate the research and development around blockchain.
Okay. So, switching tactics again, since I think we're running short on time. I know you worked at Swift for something like a decade before making the jump to Ripple. What was the transition like for you?
Well, I think it was fast. Well, I think what was interesting for me is Swift is a centralized network. And at the end, when you are talking about the network, you need peers. It's a game. It's a playing field. So you can't be alone. You need other peers to play with. So I think having the experience of Swift was very helpful in terms of making the move to a company that at that time was more startups. The network was just going live, but I was very much somehow used to a series of challenges that when you are running a company and a network company, you have to face to. So I think that was very helpful. But of course, I had to really ensure that I understand this new technology because obviously it's different. But at the end, I think the technology is a means to an end and is about the different experience that you bring to the users. And this is in common with any kind of technology or any kind of new things, that you can somehow project yourself and put yourself in the shoes of the users.
Right. Can you speak a little bit to maybe how Swift's work is different from Ripple's?
Yeah, I think, again, it's around centralization and decentralization. Swift is a centralized network, is working very well, I think, for many kind of global banks. If you are sending a wire transfer, for instance, a high value payment of millions, okay, it takes days, it's not fast, there are less transparency, but probably it works. And it has been there for more than 40 years. But I think what is important is to understand what is the process behind this exchange of payments. It's kind of messaging, it's only message. It's like you send a message to the next part of the chain, and it is continuing until the moment that the payment is getting to the end beneficiary. So you don't have the exchange of the data and really the finality of the settlement together. I think that differentiates a lot. So therefore you are in a process and not necessarily Swift. This is a process that the correspondent banking and the existing infrastructure in the world works like that. What is different compared to Ripple, for instance, is that the exchange of the data, so the validation of all the elements of the payments that are the real burdens and costs today in the existing banking industry, is happening in parallel with the settlement and finality of the payments. So you are moving from just sending information and validating and waiting that the information is coming back to a synchronized way of exchanging data and making the settlement possible at the same time in a matter of few seconds. So, this is the power of the blockchain. It's not only about just exchange of value, it's as well improving a lot the compliance processes, the reconciliation processes, all the things that today financial industry is struggling, I think, since many years, and has a cost associated to that we are paying for it at the end on the transaction part.
Okay. Moving forward, what do you think Ripple's going to be focusing on? Are there any, plans that you can maybe talk about a little bit?
Well, from our perspective is make it even more concrete. Well, actually now is really very interesting. Last quarter, so it's a few days ago, we ended up with more than 25 financial institutions joining. So it's really is a matter of 2 to 3 financial institutions signing on a weekly basis. Now onboarding is another aspect. Making the volumes coming into the network is an important aspect that we are working a lot. This trend will continue, I think, ahead, even more, I should say. And I think what we are mainly very much interested is the usage of the XRapid, which is the product that we use for the sourcing on demand liquidity, to make that even more create more velocity and even more users on this aspect to ensure that the real problem of the cross-border payments, which is the liquidity management, is solved as well.
Okay. How are we doing on time? 5 minutes? All right, let's do some quick audience questions. Anybody has any questions? I'll start you up there.
So with remittances, Bitcoin and Litecoin, and like many other currencies can act as like a solution to that. Similar to what XRP is doing as a currency, I think Stellar is doing something really similar. What do you think makes Ripple and XRP unique? What do you think is the trait that makes it most unique?
Well, first of all, remittances today that we are talking about in the live, they are mainly around usage of the fiat currencies. Okay. When you get to the liquidity, I think XRP, if you look at the performance of the XRP, was designed for international payments. So in terms of the high throughput, speed, and price, if you compare that with at least the top largest like Bitcoin, Ethereum, it's significantly different. And when we see actually towards the users that actually are using this product, for payment service providers, I'm not talking about the global banks like HSBC or large banks, but if you look at the very mid-size, it brings 40 to 70% efficiencies in terms of the liquidity management cost.
When you do large financial institution transactions between these countries, how does that affect the price of Ripple? Does it wildly fluctuate the price? Because I remember Ripple, they successfully traded $400 million plus of Ripple in a very short amount of time. But does that really change the price, or how do you put locks on that so it doesn't really affect the Ripple price too?
Just to understand what do you mean? Are you talking about the fiat currencies, or are you talking about?
Well, I saw that there was an XRP transfer of over $400 million, and I don't think it affected the price that much. The price of XRP as a cryptocurrency. How is it that?
No, I think that the price always. I mean, if you're talking as an individual or really the crypto exchange behavior,
Okay.
That's what you are referring to, or you're talking about institutional usage?
Probably institutional.
Well, institutional usage, honestly, I'm not aware of this case. Institutional usage actually is a matter of few seconds when you use that as a bridge currency. So you are very limited, exposed actually to the fluctuation of the price. The trend that we see, as it is happening really in a matter of at maximum 10 to 2 minutes, the exposure is very limited.
That's kind of what I was going to ask. So when a bank in the U.S. transfers to the bank in the Philippines, do they transfer to XRP and then to the bank in the Philippines? So there's a little bit of in between it's XRP and then it goes from the dollar to the Philippine currency?
So, for instance, a payment service provider in this case, so you go, so you have, 100,000, okay? So you convert that with the rate at that time to the XRP, and immediately you convert that back to the local currency that you want to deliver. Either it's the same party, most of the time payment service providers are working in different jurisdictions. If it is not, then you can even onwards deliver that to the local rates. It depends.
What challenges do you see in scaling the XRapid or remittance payments payment networks, like especially regarding throughput? I know it was concerned early on.
Well, I think the scalability, the challenge today is how to ensure that the legacy systems or the oversight, the governance of the organization go deeper in the implementation and integration. That's the scalability. So that means that when you sign a production, there are different levels of the integration that you can go. Where we see the challenge is that how deep you can push the integration so that then the volume will follow, actually. That's basically, and I think we have been, at this stage, we are beyond that. If I look at it 3 years ago, we were still in the pilot phase. It was still in the innovation area. Now we are not talking anymore with the labs or innovation. We are talking with a real owner of the systems. So that makes that completely different. I think scalability will follow.
Yeah.
A quick question. Many people feel like Ripple are not very decentralized. So with JP Morgan Chase and Alipay get into the remittance arena, so how does that affect Ripple?
Well, again, if you look at what is in the media, everything that is coming is like Ripple is dead. To be honest, I don't think so. I think JP Morgan, for me, without getting to the politics of JP Morgan, I think at the end is decentralized. It's a good old correspondent banking. Is JP Morgan sitting in between and pegging actually, JPM coin towards $1, stable coin. It brings certain stability, definitively. You take the risk of JP Morgan, but it's still in a closed network. So if everybody will do the same, every commercial bank will do the same, what would be the exchange of this? Everybody will accept the other coins? So this is going to be even a more fragmented world than we are today. So yeah, I think, to me, honestly, if this world of this decentralization is bringing a value, the cases like JP Morgan is not necessarily going towards this direction.
Yeah, we have time for one more.
I just wanted to follow up on the scalability point earlier. If you're sending $1 billion worth of Ripple, and it takes a couple of minutes, and the price just changed by even 0.1%, that's still $1 million. So how do you think about that in terms of scalability to large transaction sizes?
Well, honestly, where we see the real use case today for Ripple is mainly on the low value, high frequency. And this is typically the ticket size for remittances. You see, there are certain limitations. Now, getting to the higher one, more liquidity we have, the better this will be. And that's where we are building actually the liquidity towards different exchanges. But I think at this stage, the tickets are small.
And I think that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for